Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It's fantastic that you are here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video commentary on Brian Duncan, and in particular his song Love Takes Time. And in that song, we talked about the fact that love kind of grows and develops and evolves over time. It's not something that happens overnight, it's something that gradually happens as partners are committed to each other. And let's sort of get this out the way today and say that if you want to recap on that video, the link is below, because I wanted to talk about just today's song without going into other things. Can you imagine, if you're a songwriter out there, can you imagine a world without computers? Can you imagine a world where you're writing not for 3 or 4 people, but for 70 people, all in different, and the instruments are different keys, they're set in different keys and all sorts of bits and pieces, but we have beautiful melodies woven together, incredible harmonies and all the rest of it. Music that goes for an hour. And that's very much what composers were doing back when the classics and the romantic period was really, really happening. These guys were masters at being able to imagine music before it had even been heard. The music we're going on today, it's more than music. It is an all-encompassing, immersive experience. And what I'm really hoping today is that you will actually stay through this video and secondly see what I mean when you listen to the music a little bit later. Well, Richard Wagner. Now you'll notice that I've got him in my playlist under W. Well, I suppose when you think about normal artists, like for instance Bryan Adams, for instance, he's Bryan Adams, not Adams, Bryan. That's his stage name, Bryan Adams, so he's under B. But with classical composers, very much the surname is the prominent thing. Beethoven, Mozart, and the guy today, Wagner. Yes, he does start with W, but you pronounce it Wagner. So that's why it's under W. So he lived from 1813 to 1883. Now, post-industrial revolution as well. So one thing you'll notice is that, man, even though I do wonder about the city drift of people to the cities and all the rest of it, this is an age of what can happen, how far can we push things to actually make a difference. And so yes, and music and art and everything else followed that theme. So he was a German composer in the Romantic period. Now I'll talk about the Romantic period in a second because it's really, really cool. So let's look at what he's written now. There was one chamber piece, 3 symphonies, 12 overtures, 10 other orchestral pieces, 16 piano pieces, 15 lieders or songs, 7 arias, 19 other vocal pieces, and various other works and arrangements, 22. But what Richard Wagner is probably well known for are his operas. Now, operas go for a long time, 2-3 hours. And Wagner was a bit interesting because he actually wrote the librettos for these opera, or the scripts for these operas, as well as the music. Wagner was a bit of a perfectionist. Now, I'll get on this to a little bit more tomorrow. So nobody else was capable of writing the words for his operas. He had to write them himself. But really, really unusual to do that. And just goes to show what sort of imagination and creativity he's got to not only to come up with a story, but then to bring that story alive with music. So opera is very much Wagner's thing, and now opera is very much his legacy. And now there's one cycle called The Ring, which is a series of 4 operas. So when you go to see The Ring, you don't just see one of them, you see all 4 of them, and you kind of prepare yourself for what is an onslaught to the senses. Very much The Ring is serious, intense, compelling, all of that stuff just wound in together. So Wagner is known for many things. Apart from the fact he's just a master composer, his music is very complex. His harmonies are stunning. The orchestration, of course, the Industrial Revolution brought about changes and developments in musical instruments. So what this meant was that they could play more intricate stuff, and the musicians could kind of kept up with it a little bit, because composers really put musos through their paces well and truly. And phrasing is another thing that Wagner is famous for. So I've talked about the Romantic period. There is a bit of a vibe, a feeling, a theme running through the Romantic period that really brings the Romantic period alive. And this is this word, Sehnsucht. Now, Sehnsucht is about striving for perfection. It's striving for the absolute best, brilliantly best perfection. But the problem is that if we arrive at perfection, it won't be perfect anymore. And so we never quite get to perfection. We get really, really, really close to it, but then we just back off from it, because the minute we try to get there, it won't be perfect anymore. This is the tension that the Romantic period composers were bringing to their music. They were taking their audience for a ride. In fact, it wasn't just a ride, it was an assault, a beautiful assault on your senses. It involved not just your ears, it involved your heart and your whole being. You couldn't help but being swept up in the beauty of this journey of striving for perfection but never quite getting there. And you'll note in the song I'll talk about in a minute, there is a bit you can tell, this is the climax. You can see the conductor almost with a sigh of relief on his face of actually getting there, but then the music backs away from it really, really quickly. This is what the Romantic period is. But what an amazing journey it is. And the piece that I'm going to try and get you to listen to next is the prelude from the opera Tristan and Isolde. And here you'll see what I mean. It starts off very, very quietly, almost nothing, and it just builds and builds and builds. Then it drops back to nothing. Then it builds and builds and builds, drop back just a little bit, builds, drops back, builds, drops back. It goes through the whole thing. And when you think you can't take any more because it's such a stunningly beautiful piece of music, it goes even further and even higher, because we are striving. We're striving for perfection. We really, really want to get there. And so the music just builds and builds and builds. You think, I can't take any more of this. And it keeps on building and it keeps on building until we get to the stunning, climax. But then it backs away. We don't want to reach perfection, right? Because perfection will no longer be perfection if we get there. And so this is the beauty of the Romantic period. Now, Richard Wagner was a master of tweaking and playing with our emotions, playing with our whole being to actually get us to go on a journey. And so when we talk about listening to music such as this, it's not just a song, guys. This is a journey that will involve everything that you've got. And at the end, you'll be thinking, wow, what have I just experienced? I'm like, yeah, it was beautiful, it was fantastic, but oh my goodness, what a journey. This is what the prelude to Tristan and Isolde capitalizes on, this Sehnsucht feeling so well. It really, really does. Now, it's 20 minutes long, and now I know for YouTube you think, oh, come on, Trevor, 20 minutes, but you know what? What else are you going to do? Make yourself a coffee, sit down and listen to it. It is really, really good. You'll be thinking, well, Trevor, it starts off really slow or really quiet. Well, yeah, it does. But 20 minutes later, you'll be thinking, oh my goodness, what a stunningly beautiful piece of music. We put aside the fact it's classical, guys. You know, sometimes we think, oh, classical music, whatever. Put that aside, because this is a musical journey, a musical masterpiece of the genius of Richard Wagner. And in this particular clip, and by the way, the link is in to this clip is in the description below. We have Leonard Bernstein as the conductor here, and just watch the emotions that he goes through, because there is so much more to this piece than just the notes on the page. It's not the notes, it's the how it's played and the why it's played, and he is urging his orchestra to just rise and to rise and to rise and to rise and to fall and then to rise again. This is the brilliance of Richard Wagner in this prelude to Tristan and Isolde. So I hope I have excited you enough to give this a go. Guys, seriously, 20 minutes. What else are you doing at the moment? Grab yourself a drink, sit down, and when you're ready, click on the link. I really, really urge you to do that, because it is stunning, this piece of music. Be patient as it builds and builds and builds. Be patient with that. But notice how it rises and falls, rises and falls, rises and falls, goes quicker and quicker and quicker. And you go, oh my goodness, we got there. Then it backs away. We're backing away for perfection as quickly as we can. The power of the Romantic period. So, are you game? Are you game to want to experience what is the wonder of this piece of stunning music? Make yourself a drink, come back, and then click the link below to watch it. And I think you'll be glad that you kind of did, because it's going to capture all of you. It really, really is, if you let it. So, if you've come back for another video, thank you very, very much. If this is your first time, fantastic as well. And if you've hung around to the end, and if you are going to click on the link below, fantastic indeed. So I'll leave that one with you today. We are going to carry on with Richard Wagner next time, with one of his more upbeat pieces next time. But are you game today? Click the link below. I'll catch you around.